Denzel Washington's story is not just about an actor who became famous, it is about a man who rose from circumstances that could have easily broken him. A man who turned pain, uncertainty, and hardship into fuel for greatness. Picture this: a young boy growing up in Mount Vernon, New York, in a world where opportunities seemed scarce and the path forward was unclear. His father was a Pentecostal minister, strict and often distant, while his mother worked tirelessly in beauty salons to make ends meet. The young Denzel did not grow up with silver spoons, designer clothes, or the promise of privilege. Instead, he grew up with questions, with doubts, with challenges that many people never escape. He was not born into the Hollywood dream. He was born into real life, the kind of life where bills needed paying, discipline was demanded, and the streets could swallow you whole if you weren't careful. And before the glitz, before the Oscars, before the applause of millions, Denzel Washington was just a boy trying to figure out who he was in a world that often didn't believe in him. As a teenager, Denzel did not look like the destined superstar we now know. He was just another young man trying to stay out of trouble, just another kid whose future could have gone in 100 different directions. He has admitted many times in interviews that if it weren't for his mother's prayers and her relentless determination to keep him on the right path, he might not have lived to tell his story. The streets were rough. Friends around him slipped into crime, gangs, and paths that led to destruction. In fact, some of the people he grew up with never made it out at all. But life has a funny way of redirecting us when we are at our lowest, and for Denzel, his turning point began in places that didn't seem glamorous. Odd jobs, low-paying work, and yes, even picking up garbage. Imagine that, the man who would one day hold Oscars, deliver speeches that move millions, and become one of the most respected actors of all time, once wore the uniform of a garbage man, lifting trash bins for a living. And it is here, in this part of his story, that the lesson begins. You see, many of us look at success stories and only see the highlight reel. We see the red carpets, the interviews, the magazine covers, the awards. But behind all of that lies a grind that is invisible to most. Denzel's success story reminds us that humble beginnings are not a curse, they are a foundation. Working as a garbage man was not glamorous, but it taught him discipline. It taught him humility. It taught him that no work is beneath you if it puts food on the table. Too many people quit their dreams because they feel embarrassed about where they start. But Denzel's story proves that starting small is not failure, it's preparation. Every bag of garbage he lifted was shaping a work ethic that Hollywood could never take away from him. But life did not change for Denzel overnight. In fact, he was still unsure of who he wanted to be. After high school, he did not immediately walk into fame. Instead, he went to college with no clear vision of what his future held. At one point, he thought about becoming a doctor. At another, he considered journalism. He even explored the idea of becoming a preacher like his father. But none of these paths seemed to light the fire inside him. He drifted, uncertain, like many young people do. He was not the straight-A student with perfect grades and a perfect plan. He was just Denzel, a young man searching for a calling. The truth is, he found acting almost by accident. One summer, while working at a YMCA camp, someone encouraged him to try acting after noticing the way he carried himself, the way he could command attention when he spoke. At first, he brushed it off. But then, curiosity got the better of him. He auditioned for a small role in a student play, and something happened in that moment. Something clicked. For the first time in his life, he felt alive, electric, purposeful. The stage became his sanctuary, his outlet, his destiny. It was as if all the uncertainty, all the drifting, all the lost years suddenly came together to reveal the path he was meant to walk. From that point on, Denzel began to take acting seriously. But let's be clear, deciding to become an actor does not guarantee success. In fact, it usually guarantees struggle. And struggle he did. He was rejected. He was overlooked. Casting directors told him he wasn't right for roles. Some doubted his abilities. Others told him to tone it down. But every no only made him stronger. Every door that closed pushed him to find another. He studied the craft relentlessly, throwing himself into every performance as if it were his last. He sharpened his skills in theater, taking small roles that paid little but taught him everything about presence, emotion, and truth. And here is where Denzel's story becomes truly motivational. You see, while many dream of becoming stars, few are willing to endure the years of invisibility, the years when nobody claps for you, the years when your name means nothing. But Denzel endured. He endured because he understood that greatness is not built in the spotlight. It is built in the shadows, when nobody is watching, when you are grinding, when you are still unknown. By the late 1970s, Denzel Washington began landing television roles, slowly carving his place in the industry. His breakout moment came when he was cast in the hit medical drama St. Elsewhere in the 1980s. For 6 years, millions of Americans watched him on their screens every week. It was not the flashiest role, but it was steady, it was consistent, and it put him in front of an audience. More importantly, it showed Hollywood that here was a man who could command attention without even trying. His charisma was undeniable. His presence was magnetic. And audiences loved him. But even then, Denzel was not satisfied. He did not want to be typecast. He did not want to be just another face in television. He wanted more. He wanted to stretch himself, to tell stories that mattered, to embody characters that challenged the world. And soon, film opportunities began to come his way. With each role, he pushed further, showing depth, range, and intensity that critics could not ignore. He was not just playing roles, he was transforming into them. Whether he played a soldier, a lawyer, a father, or a leader, he brought truth to the screen. And yet, even with rising fame, Denzel never forgot where he came from. The garbage man. The boy from Mount Vernon. The son of a preacher and a beautician. He carried humility with him, a groundedness that made him relatable even as he soared to new heights. Success did not change him. It revealed him. This is just the beginning of his journey. From here, the story will take us through his struggles with Hollywood stereotypes, his relentless pursuit of excellence, the roles that defined him, and the Oscars that crowned him. But more than that, it will show us the man behind the legend, the man who believes that falling forward is the key to success, the man who tells graduates every year to put God first, the man who proves that success is not just about talent, but about faith, discipline, and courage. When Denzel Washington first stepped into Hollywood, he quickly realized that talent alone was not enough to guarantee success. He had the passion, he had the work ethic, but the industry was unforgiving. It was an era when opportunities for black actors were limited, when stereotypes dictated the roles available, and when Hollywood often refused to see beyond skin color. Denzel was ambitious, but ambition in an unfair system can feel like climbing a mountain with weights tied to your feet. Yet instead of complaining, instead of backing down, Denzel did what he always did. He worked harder, he studied deeper, he prepared longer, and he waited for the moment when preparation would meet opportunity. His time on St. Elsewhere gave him stability, but it did not satisfy his hunger. He knew television was only the beginning, not the end. He wanted the big screen, the cinema, the chance to tell powerful stories that could last for generations. And then, that chance came in the form of film roles that began to showcase his brilliance. His breakout moment arrived with the film Cry Freedom, 1987, where he played South African activist Steve Biko. It was not just a role, it was a transformation. Denzel poured his soul into the character, embodying Biko's courage, conviction, and sacrifice. Audiences and critics alike were stunned. For the first time, the world saw that this man was not just another actor. He was a force of nature. His performance earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. He did not win, but it didn't matter. The world had taken notice. Hollywood could no longer ignore him. That nomination was the spark that lit the fire. 2 years later, in Glory, 1989, Denzel played Private Tripp, a defiant runaway slave fighting for the Union in the Civil War. His performance was raw, powerful, unforgettable. In one iconic scene, he shed a single tear while being whipped, a moment so real, so heart-wrenching, that it became etched in cinematic history. That role earned him his first Oscar, a Best Supporting Actor win. Think about that. The young man who once picked up garbage for a living now stood on the world's biggest stage holding the golden statue that symbolized excellence in his craft. But instead of seeing it as the peak, Denzel saw it as a stepping stone. This was not the end. This was only the beginning. And here lies the brilliance of Denzel Washington. For many, an Oscar would be enough. They would celebrate, relax, and enjoy the fame. But Denzel was built differently. He was not chasing trophies. He was chasing truth. He wanted to grow, to evolve, to push boundaries. After Glory, he did not slow down. He took on diverse roles, from thrillers to dramas, from action to romance. He refused to be typecast, refused to be boxed into Hollywood's limited imagination. He wanted to prove that a black actor could be a leading man, a hero, a commander, a lawyer, a father, a lover, anything, everything. But success did not come without resistance. Hollywood still carried its biases. Even after his Oscar, there were those who doubted him, who tried to limit him, who whispered that he should know his place. Yet Denzel never wavered. He kept working, kept showing up, kept delivering performances that silenced every critic. Films like Malcolm X, 1992, directed by Spike Lee, became milestones not just in his career, but in cinematic history. Playing Malcolm X was a responsibility, a burden, a legacy. And Denzel rose to it with unmatched brilliance. He embodied Malcolm's fire, his intelligence, his transformation. To this day, many argue that it was one of the greatest performances ever put on screen. Though he did not win the Oscar that year, he won something greater, the respect of the world. Audiences did not just watch Denzel. They believed him, they felt him, they carried his performance with them long after the credits rolled. What makes Denzel's journey so motivational is not just the success, it's the mindset behind it. He has always preached about the importance of falling forward. To him, failure is not the enemy. The enemy is not trying. Every rejection, every setback, every loss became fuel. He often tells students in his famous commencement speeches, "You will fail at some point in your life. Accept it. You will lose. You will embarrass yourself. But if you fall, fall forward." Those words are not just advice. They are the philosophy that carried him from garbage man to global icon. By the late 1990s, Denzel Washington had become one of Hollywood's most bankable and respected actors. He delivered hit after hit, always bringing depth, intensity, and authenticity to every role. But the crown jewel came in 2001, when he starred in Training Day as Detective Alonzo Harris, a corrupt and menacing cop. It was a role unlike anything he had played before. A villain, a man consumed by power and greed. And Denzel played it with such terrifying brilliance that audiences were left speechless. For that role, he won the Academy Award for Best Actor. The garbage man had become the king. He had done what few ever accomplish. He had not just survived Hollywood, he had conquered it. But even in victory, Denzel never lost himself. He remained grounded, humble, connected to his roots. He always credited his mother, his faith, and his discipline for keeping him focused. Unlike many stars who lose themselves in fame, Denzel stayed true to who he was. He refused to be owned by Hollywood. He chose his roles carefully, often turning down scripts that did not align with his values. For him, it was never about the money, it was about the message, the art, the impact. This is what makes his story so powerful for us. Because it shows that success is not just about talent. It is about discipline, faith, and integrity. Denzel did not take shortcuts. He did not sell out. He built his career brick by brick, role by role, sacrifice by sacrifice. And in doing so, he became more than an actor. He became an example, a symbol of what is possible when you refuse to give up on yourself.